Hello and welcome back to my weekly show where I talk about the ups and downs and in-betweens of selling on eBay. Was out of town for the last few days. I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's actually a really cool town. My brother-in-law and his family live there. Every year I go in November for the McNally's Pub Run, which is a 4-mile run, but you drink a pint of Guinness at every mile. So I've ran it for like 5 or 6 years in a row. It's a really fun race. Here's some shots of me making this run, and that's the look on my face when I am trying to run 4 miles with 3 pints of Guinness in my stomach. More difficult than you would imagine, but it's a lot of fun. We have a good time doing it. I also got some negative feedback this week. I usually get 2 or 3 negative feedbacks per year. Try not to let it bother me too much. Honestly, it just doesn't really impact my business really in any way, but this one was a good one. The negative feedback here said $12 plus shipping and handling for a bumper sticker. That's the negative feedback. So this person is complaining about the price that they agreed to pay for an item. Well, you know what? Don't buy it if you don't like the price. I don't really know. Very weird to get some negative feedback about the cost of something after someone agreed to buy it for that cost. I don't quite understand it. I might ask eBay if they can remove this one. It seems very weird, a weird thing to give negative feedback for. But again, I don't let these negative feedbacks bother me too much. I usually always sit at under 100%. This brought me to like 99.8. Really has no meaningful impact on my business. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. You just can't please everyone. I don't know what this buyer's problem is, but hope they have a better day than they're having today. All right, let's do some viewer questions.
Hi, Justin. Thank you very much for one of your more recent videos about small eBay sellers finding success in 2025. You spoke a little bit about the mindset of remaining positive versus allowing yourself to become negative. And I can definitely say that I see myself sometimes allowing myself to become negative. And your video is a good reminder that that's not a helpful way to proceed. So I appreciate it. My question is in regards to stock backlog and whether you have a point at which you will stop purchasing items in order to deal with your backlog. In my own case, I sell, among other things, CDs on eBay. And as ridiculous as this may sound, I have a backlog of approximately 5,000 CDs that I haven't listed yet. And I have an opportunity to purchase another 6,000 CDs. Now, these are good sellers for a variety of reasons, and I will make money on them. It's certainly the long game, but that is going to saddle me with, 10,000 CDs to deal with. And it could take years, really, to list them all. And I wonder, again, just if you really have a point at which you say, okay, I've got enough of this item or enough of items in general, and you will stop purchasing in order to deal with your backlog. Again, love the videos. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Appreciate you sending that question along. Appreciate the kind words on that video from last week that I did, the mindset video. Put a lot of hard work into that video. It's something that's been in my mind for a long time. That's kind of how these videos come about, is they're just sort of like bouncing around in my brain, and it feels really good to get that one out because I've had those ideas sort of bouncing around in my head for some time. So I'm glad you really liked it. I appreciate the kind words on it. I'll link it down in the description below if you don't know the video Sean's talking about. But to your question, you have 5,000 items in your death pile that need to be listed, CDs, and you're coming across a deal for 6,000 more, and you're asking like, ooh, should I do that? Should I add to my death pile that much, or should I list the stuff first and wait until I have my death pile down to something more manageable or more reasonable until I buy new inventory? And there's really no one right answer here. I think it really comes down to the type of seller that you are in particular. If you're someone who just has a hard time staying disciplined listing, and you go many days without listing, and you should be listing, it would probably be not wise to bring on that much new inventory on top of the backlog of inventory that you already have. But if you are a disciplined seller, if you're listing every single day, if you're burning through that pile of 5,000 CDs, it makes sense to take advantage of another deal like that because, hey, this game is all about finding valuable inventory, listing that inventory, selling that inventory, shipping it out. And one of the biggest challenges in this business is finding new inventory. And so you don't want to pass up a really good deal if you have one, even if that means adding a bunch more items to your death pile. If you have a problem where you're not listing the inventory that you buy and you feel like maybe you're hoarding more stuff than you are listing and selling, then I would pump the brakes on finding new inventory. Even if you have good deals, I would use the opportunity of new inventory as like the carrot on the stick to get you through and provide the discipline that's necessary to push through that backlog, that death pile of inventory that needs to be listed. So it really is up to you, Sean. Are you someone who is disciplined and who is already going through and listing 10, 20, 30 of those CDs every single day? If so, yeah, add to that pile. Anytime you come across a good deal, just, it's good to have that inventory. It's good to have that death pile. It's good to be able to have stuff always to be listing, because that's the whole game here, is doing that. But if you're someone who is not, if you're someone who just has a hard time getting themselves to list and not making much of a dent in your existing death pile, then yeah, don't do it. Don't buy it. Use it as motivation. Use it as a carrot on a stick instead to get through that existing death pile. Don't allow yourself the fun parts of going out and finding new inventory until you list the stuff that you've already found and you just need to list. So that's what I would recommend. I hope that helps out. Sean, thanks for sending that question along. All right, let's jump into my sales for the week. I'll be answering more viewer questions sprinkled throughout those top 10 sales. If you have a question for me, you can leave it in the comment section below or look in the description for a link to leave a video or audio question. And I will also leave time codes in the description if you want to jump around to different questions in this video. Looking at my sales for the last 7 days, I had $1,154 in gross sales and $666 in net sales. That's $37.22 average gross per sale and $21.48 average net per sale. That's a 58% net profit margin. Looks like I spent $68 on new inventory over the past 7 days. The cost of goods for the items that sold were $124, had $166 in marketplace fees, and just under $200 in shipping label costs. Coming in at number 10 is this Estes brand Helicat model rocket. Y'all remember last week I sold 4 model rockets. This is from the same collection that I bought at a garage sale. There's about 15 new in-box model rockets that I bought for $2 a piece. This one sold for $42.98 gross, and my net for the 10th best flip of the week was $21.84. The cost of ship was a little bit high on this one, was $12.65. I only charged $6.99 in shipping on that one. So this is one that I just kind of miscalculated. I thought it was going to cost less to ship. Ended up costing a little bit more than I was expecting. I should have put this I would have put it in my $10 or $15 business policy shipping if I could turn back time. That's what I would do, but I can't. That's okay. I only lost out a few dollars on that one. Still came in at number 10. Coming in at number 9 are these New Balance women's shoes. I got them at a garage sale about 4 months ago for $5. These things were pretty much brand new. I didn't list them as new, but they look like they had never been worn, but they had no box and no tag. So just to be safe, I listed them as used in very good condition. They sold for $41.48 in 4 months. That's $31.49 plus $9.99 in shipping. Actual cost to ship there was $7.24, and my net return was $23.02 for the 9th best flip of the week. Really, any shoes that you can get for under $10 that are a brand that you recognize in good condition is a pretty good bet. They're not going to be the fastest sellers. These took 4 months to sell, but people buy shoes and they want shoes for a good deal. This is probably someone who had these exact same pair of shoes that they wore out and wanted to buy the exact same ones. And shoes are just a great thing to buy to resell. I usually pass on shoes if they require a lot of cleaning, just because I don't like the process of cleaning shoes. I will buy them if they're very valuable and they need cleaning, but if they're less valuable, I just don't want to waste my time cleaning something that's not going to sell for very much. So for this, $23, if I would have spent an hour cleaning them, that would not have been a good return, but they required no cleaning. I made $23, but it did take 4 months.
Hey, Justin, thanks for your content. It's super amazing. I'm a baby reseller. I've only been at it like 4 months. I sell everything on eBay and mostly vintage items on Etsy. I want to transition to buyer paid shipping instead of free shipping. I'm a little bit nervous about dimensions and weight. And at the time of listing, what if I don't have the box available? I guess it maybe is just an experience thing, but I worry that, I'm going to eat the shipping or that the buyer, I have it wrong for the buyer. So I just wonder what your suggestions are on that, or if it's just all part of the process. Thanks again.
Sure, Lauren, it's a great question. You're considering your new seller, but you're considering whether you should be using free shipping. And so when you do free shipping, it doesn't mean that you pay for the shipping on behalf of the buyer. It just means you bake the cost to ship into the total cost of the item that you charge the buyer. And that does, require some advanced experience of selling on eBay and knowing how much something is going to cost to ship. It's really hard to do for the reasons that you describe, as you may not know what sort of box it's going to go into. You also definitely don't know the location of the person who is going to buy your item in the future. And the cost to ship is very dependent on how far they are away from you. So there's all sorts of variables that are very difficult to predict that make offering free shipping challenging. And for that reason, I don't recommend offering free shipping for new eBay sellers, because it's too easy to get burned on free shipping and lose money by not charging enough in the total cost of the item to cover the cost to ship, and then you just end up eating that overage, and that puts a pretty big dent in your margins, and that's not good, especially for new resellers. So I usually recommend for new resellers selling on eBay to do calculated shipping, because that requires you to know roughly the size and the weight of the item in the box before you sell it. And that's going to pretty much guarantee that you don't have any overages with the shipping costs, and that the buyer is going to pay the actual cost to ship, and you're not going to have to cover any of that. But as you gain experience, you do find that you want to find efficiencies in the listing process and also help your listings stand out against other sellers out there. And offering free shipping is a good way to do both of those. And so one way that it, by not having to weigh and measure everything when you list it, you can list things a lot quicker. So that's why I offer free shipping on a lot of things, or the things that I don't offer free shipping on, I offer flat rate shipping. So I have kind of tiered business policies. Like I have a $7 shipping, a $10 shipping, a $15 shipping, a $25 shipping. And when I go to list something, I just know roughly which tier it's going to fit into. Not always right. Sometimes I lose a little bit of money. Sometimes I gain a little bit of money. But the trade-off there is that my listing process is much faster, so I can list a lot more in a lower amount of time. And so that just means more money when I can do that. And offering free shipping does send a positive signal to the buyer. Usually, if buyers go in and they do a search on eBay and they sort by lowest cost first on top, that's going to include the cost to ship. And so at the end of the day, how much it costs for a buyer to buy something and get it delivered to their door is a total cost. And whether they pay a separate shipping amount or not is really more of a psychological thing. And so if buyers see free shipping, it just sort of feels good, even if it means they may actually be paying a little bit more than they would with separate shipping. So it really is tough to say one way or the other, but if you want to start offering free shipping, it does just come with experience. And what that experience is knowing how much it costs to ship a thing. After thousands and thousands of sales, I can just look at something and pretty much know the maximum amount it's going to cost for me to ship something from where I'm located. I'm in the middle of the country, which makes it easier for me. I know that the furthest away that I'm going to ship something that my business policies allow is going to be like the Pacific Northwest. It really just comes with experience. I would just get a couple hundred at least, maybe 1,000 sales under your belt before you start to integrate free shipping into your process, unless you like gambling a little bit. Because again, as much as you're going to lose a little bit of money on overages for shipping, you may also gain a little bit of money too, because it ends up costing less than you thought it was to ship, and the buyer pays a little bit more than it actually would have. So some say it might even out, in the end, but it is a little bit more risky. It's not for everyone. And it also depends on what you sell. There's certain things that are more difficult to understand how much it's going to cost to ship. The bigger it is, for example, the heavier that it is, those things can just be more difficult to determine what the shipping costs will be. But if you're selling like the exact same thing, or things that are all under 8 ounces or something like that, it's just a little bit easier. But yeah, Lauren, thanks for sending that along. I hope that answers your question. Another thing that took a long time to sell is this Randall Spangler Cherish the Small Wonders print here. So Randall Spangler's an artist who does kind of these fantasy dragon type pictures. I've sold a few of his pieces in the past. This one was signed $828 out of 1,000. It did take a year to sell. I bought it at a garage sale on September 20th, 2021. So that's like 3 years ago. Wow. $5 I paid for that. It sold for $49.99 free shipping. I just sort of forgot that I had this thing. It was hanging up on the wall in my my resale area in the basement. Whatever. It takes 3 years. Sounds good to me. $25.80 for the 8th best flip of the week. This just ended up getting covered in bubble wrap and some packing paper and then put in a sort of normal sized box with plenty of packing material around it. So not too bad to ship. $11.35. Coming in at number 7 is this vintage Pendleton skirt. Kind of weird. Last week I sold one of the other vintage Pendleton skirts that I had, and I mentioned that I had bought 2 of them, and then the following week, this week, the second one sold, which is weird because I've had these, I bought them in 2023, over a year ago. So it's just weird that something I've had for, these 2 skirts that I've had for over a year sold within weeks of each other. Just very weird. $44.98. That's $39.99 plus $4.99 in shipping. Actual cost of ship was $5.93. My net return for the 7th best flip was $28.24. Pendleton's just a really good brand. Look for that blue tag. That usually means it's going to be valuable. Usually you see the men's shirts, long sleeve plaid shirts, pretty common at places like thrift stores and estate sales too. I find Pendleton shirts in a lot of estate sales as well.
Hi, Justin.
Hi.
Thanks so much for what you do on YouTube. I find your videos so helpful. Tune into them every week. I have a question for you about sending kind of large, irregular shaped items, like say an embroidery hoop, for instance. I see that they sell pretty often online, and for reasonable shipping, it looks like, at least on Terapeak. But when I'm trying to send a really large embroidery hoop, I'm having trouble figuring out how to not spend a ton on shipping or have the buyer spend a ton. Any advice you have would be super appreciated. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for sending that along, Allie. So your question is, what's the best way to ship something large cheaply? Generally speaking, the cost to ship is usually more impacted by the dimensions than it is the weight. The weight matters too, but the dimensions matter more, especially when shipping through the post office, through the USPS. And I think that's because they have relatively small trucks, and if you are giving them a really large, weird package, it just sort of messes up their system. It messes up their process. It's a burden for their mail carriers and all sorts of things. And FedEx and UPS and other carriers like that are more used to dealing with large packages like that. And so they're almost always going to be cheaper than the post office if it's beyond a certain dimension. This has evolved over time, especially with the introduction of ground advantage through the USPS. But the general rule, it's not perfect, but the general rule here is that if it's bigger than a cubic foot, so if it's bigger than a box, if the box is larger than 12 by 12 by 12, it's going to be cheaper to ship it through UPS or FedEx. If it's lower than that, if it's under a cubic foot, it's probably going to be cheaper to ship it through ground advantage through the post office. So if your items are really long and the total dimensions are greater than a cubic foot, check the rates on FedEx and UPS. eBay has those built in. They're almost always going to be cheaper. You can just drop them off at a FedEx store or a UPS store. I think Walgreens has FedEx pickups. That's what I would recommend. That's how I do it. But since ground advantage has come out, I just rarely use FedEx and UPS anymore. Before ground advantage was a thing, I was using FedEx, and UPS many times, per week. And now it's like once or twice a month, I'll send something FedEx and UPS. So things changed a lot. Just keep an eye on shipping rates, but the bigger it is, the cheaper it's going to be going through those other carriers and not through the post office. Yeah. Thanks for sending that question along.
We are just getting into Flipwise and putting down the cost of items. And we've come across some things that were ours that we purchased and used and now are ready to sell. What do we put down for that? Do we depreciate it? Do we put down what we originally paid, or we put down zero? Just need some advice on that.
Sure.
We appreciate your videos a lot. You have humor and you're just no nonsense guy. Gary and I both like that a lot. So thanks for all your information, and I look forward to hearing your answer. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks, Nikki and Gary, for the kind words. I appreciate that. It's a good question, and it's really more of a tax question than it is a Flipwise question. And so from a tax perspective, you need to give the items that you sell a cost of goods, and that allows you to reduce your total taxable income so that if eBay says you sold $20,000, you actually didn't make $20,000. You made some amount less than that, and a good portion of how you reduce that taxable income is by defining a cost of goods so that you can lower that taxable income to be the true income that you generated from it. And you're asking, like, how do I do that with a personal item, right? Something that I maybe bought 10 years ago and got a bunch of use out of it, and now I sold it. Like, what's my cost of goods on that? Again, it's more of a tax question. I'm not a tax expert. I don't really give tax advice on here. I don't want to get sued, first of all. And I also just don't want to give people the wrong advice on that. And Flipwise doesn't care. Flipwise will allow you to define whatever cost of goods you want. But there's a really good YouTube channel that I'll point you towards. It's Not Your Dad's CPA. His name is Mark. He's a reseller and a CPA, and he's got one video in particular that has basically the answer to your question laid out in a much better way than I ever could. The way I handle it personally is I like to zero out the net return on items that I sell from my personal collection that I bought many years ago. And what I mean by zero out is that I give it a $0 cost of goods to begin with. And then once it sells, Flipwise reports to me that I made, say, $20.57 or whatever. Then I just give the cost of goods $20.57, and that zeroes out the net return so that I neither made money or lost money on the deal. Because when you sell personal items, you're almost always selling them for a loss. And so by zeroing it out, it makes no positive or negative impact to my taxable income. That's personally what I do. I'm not recommending that you do that because you really should consult with a CPA, but that's how I do it personally. So take a look at that video. It's going to give you way more information than I would ever be able to. So thanks. Coming in at number 6 is this. I don't even know what this is. This is some sort of horse figurine. Trail of Painted Ponies, Christmas Kittens from 2010. I bought this in May of 2023. So over a year ago at a garage sale for $10, it sold for $58.48. That's $48.49 plus $9.99 in shipping. The cost to ship was $10.15. The net return was $30.96 for the 6th best flip of the week. I must have looked this thing up. I don't know anything about what this is, the Trail of Painted Ponies. I have no idea what I can even say about it right now, but I don't know. It's a little collectible thing. It looks like it didn't have a very good sell-through rate. Would I buy this again? Maybe. It didn't take up a whole lot of space. I don't know. It's a horse with cats on it. What else do you want? Coming in at number 5, 2 of these vintage men's Hanes thermal tops here. I bought these about 2 months ago at a garage sale for $2 total. They sold for $51.99. The net return for the 5th best flip of the week was $33.29. Anything vintage, still in the packaging, is just a good bet regardless. And clothing, definitely, if it's a recognizable brand. I like to buy a lot of the vintage underwear as well. Those do really well, but not just underwear. Look at these. These are just thermal tops, or you can sometimes get the white sleeveless tank tops, vintage, or vintage white t-shirts, all sorts of things like that. If they're new in the packaging, people just want these older, higher quality pieces. It's not like you can go to Walmart and buy them new like that. You're going to get stuff that was manufactured, in 2024 or whatever, and probably of lower quality. And so these older pieces, you can't buy them anywhere. You can only get them on eBay. Great thing to find at garage sales in particular. That's where this one came from.
Hey, Justin. Jenny here.
Hi.
Thanks so much for all of your excellent content. Your last video in particular was incredibly inspiring and motivating. So
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think the timing was really great, especially for a lot of us with the climate, with reselling in general. So again, many thanks. And actually, I made a couple of sales during your video, so maybe you brought me some luck. But
Cool.
Wondering if you could speak again on how to handle lowball offers. So let me give you an example. So I got an offer yesterday for 50% off of my asking price, and I was going to counter, but then I immediately got a message from the potential buyer telling me to cancel the offer because they had found the item cheaper on Poshmark. Okay, great. Well and done. My issue with this, though, is that now I have this offer hanging on my account that I can't reject or I can't counter on, because when I reject offers or when I counter, that I have very few or slow sales in the coming days. And when I accept really low ball offers, then I get pretty good sales for regular price. As a matter of fact, that happened to me today. I got a $5 offer on something. I accepted it, and then within an hour, I got like 2 full price sales. So this could be in my head. I've looked into this on forums, and some people seem to agree. What are your thoughts on this? But is it best just to ignore, to reject, to counter? What do you think? Okay, thanks so much for your help. You're awesome. Bye. Bye.
Thanks, Jenny. You're awesome. So what you're asking here, you got an offer from a potential buyer. They told you, never mind, I don't want it. So, you're worried about declining that offer because you think it's going to send a negative signal to the eBay algorithm and prevent you from making future sales, which personally, actually, before I jump in, I'll say nobody but eBay knows how they handle that or whether declining an offer or not counter offering sends a negative signal to the algorithm. Only eBay knows. So anything you hear anyone saying about it is speculation, including from myself. And so I want to state that up front. I don't know. But my instinct here is to not worry about that in any way whatsoever. I very regularly decline offers. If it's lower than 50% of the list price, I almost always just decline it because I just think that's sort of rude. I don't want your lowball offer. I'm not going to counter what is obviously a attempt to get something so incredibly cheap. I'm just not going to entertain it. And if they want to come back with a legitimate offer, great. Then I might be willing to counter offer, but it doesn't hurt my sales one bit. I've never noticed that. So if you notice a correlation between declining offers and a decrease in sales, I think that is just coincidence, to be honest. There's just so many ups and downs in this business. It's really hard to peg those ups and downs to any one event. And I just wouldn't worry about it. I don't think that's a big issue. Decline it, get it out of there. And focus that energy instead on listing new inventory instead of worrying about sort of whether you're pleasing the algorithm or not. It's just so easy to speculate on all sorts of different things. I have an entire video on kind of the truths of the eBay algorithm because there's a lot of misinformation out there about it. I'll link it in the description below, but give that video a watch. It's going to tell you kind of what you should be focusing on in terms of pleasing the algorithm and sort of what you can ignore. And personally, I would just ignore anything that is speculative like that. Coming in at number 4 are these Nike Dunk Low Retro size 8.5. I got this at a garage sale for $5. They were actually in a free pile. And I said, you're just giving these away? And I checked the comps on them and knew they were going to sell for 50 or 60 bucks. She's like, yeah. I was like, well, how about I give you $5 for them? I mean, I'm at your garage sale. Let me just, I don't know. I always feel bad pulling stuff out of the free pile and then turning around and selling it. I know that they're giving it away for free. They don't want money for it, but I usually just offer I'll just give you a few dollars for it. And so that's what I did here. It took 3 months to sell for $59.98. The net return for the fourth best flip of the week was $36.15. It would have been $41.15 if I wouldn't have paid for it, but all good. Took $10.02 to ship. 723% ROI on this free bin find at a garage sale. Coming in at number 3, a pair of Zeal Optics Brewer plant-based sunglasses. These took 8 days to sell for $65.12. The net return for the fourth best flip was $46.02. This came from a bulk buy of a lot of different sunglasses that I got here. I got a $6 cost of goods. That's just because I paid $300 for the entire bulk lot, and I split that cost of goods evenly across all the items in there. Pretty good. I've never heard of Zeal before, but I'll definitely keep an eye out for this brand when looking for sunglasses in the future. They sell for pretty good money.
Hey, Justin. Hi. First of all, I love your channel. Been watching you, binge watching you for the past couple of months.
Thank you.
I have been on eBay for roughly 28 years, but just recently in the last 2 to 3 months, I've been doing full-time reselling. Okay. I am retired, so I'm doing this kind of to help along. My question is with Flipwise, does it start the day you buy or you sign up to Flipwise, or will it pick up the past couple months, in my case, of sales and all that information? Thanks again. Love your channel. Keep up the great work. Bye.
Yeah, Bob, thanks for sending that question along. So your question is, so you're considering using Flipwise, and so Flipwise is an automated seller platform that I co-founded that sort of ingests all of your active listings and sales history and allows you to define all of the data that eBay doesn't know anything about so that you can get all sorts of insights into how your business is performing and, Bob, to your point, be ready for tax time. And so you're asking when you sign up, is it just give you the data from everything going forward? But Flipwise will, when you sign up, it'll ingest the last 2 years of sales history. So it goes back that far. That's the furthest we can go back that eBay and their API allows us to. So you'll get 2 years worth of your own sales history ingested into Flipwise, and then you can go about assigning that inventory data to that inventory, like your cost of goods, for example. And that's really the biggest thing that you need for tax time is to be able to define your cost of goods for your historical sales so that you know how much money you spend on your inventory and so you can lower that taxable income. But Flipwise also allows you to record all of your general business expenses as well. It'll give you everything you need to be able to do that, and it will go back 2 years, so you're good to go. Coming in at number 2 are these Gucci sunglasses, also from that same lot. A little bit nervous about selling really high-end brands like this, like Gucci. I usually do not go out and buy this stuff if I see it at a thrift store, just because I'm worried that they're going to be fake. And these, I inspected these very closely. They just felt very authentic. I'm not an expert. I don't know how to authenticate Gucci sunglasses, but I felt comfortable selling these based on my experience of selling sunglasses and high-end sunglasses like this. They went for $85.25. The net return was $63.58 for the second best flip of the week. You know, it is a little bit risky. I have no interest in selling inauthentic items, and if I had any doubt that this was inauthentic, and there were a few sunglasses from the big bulk purchase that I made that I was concerned potentially were not real, did not sell those and set those aside, but these felt real. They came with the case. They felt very, very authentic, and so I felt comfortable selling it. But be careful. The higher end the brand, the more likely it is that someone is going to put the time and effort into manufacturing counterfeit versions of it. So you have to be really, really careful. But I feel pretty good about this one. That leaves us here with number 1, this Super Nintendo Superset, just the box, just the styrofoam, just the manuals, no console in there at all, sold for $104. That's $90 and $14.99 in shipping. Again, there's no Super Nintendo in there. It is just the box, just the styrofoam, and the manuals, so really good price on that. This is something that I sold on consignment for a friend. I don't normally sell on consignment, but this is for a very good friend, and it was filled with video game stuff that is all going to sell very quickly, so I agreed to do the consignment. This actually had the console in it, and the intention was to sell the console with it, but the console itself was not in super great condition. It worked, but it was yellowed and required some cleaning. It just wasn't in very good condition. So my reasoning here for breaking it apart and selling just the box and styrofoam and inserts on its own was that if someone was looking to buy a Super Nintendo with the original box and everything else, like, they're going to have expectations that the condition of that console is probably better than what the condition of this one was. And I could still get good money. You know, I could still get $104.99 out of just the box. So I ended up splitting them out. I will sell that console separately. I haven't listed it yet. It still has to go through a little bit more cleaning and testing, but this was a pretty good sell. You know, the best flip of the week coming from this one, $80.35 was the net return. And I gave it a $14.99 cost to ship, and I ended up costing $14.12 to ship. So a little bit cheaper than what my flat business policy accounted for there. So I made a little bit of extra money on that shipping cost, but just goes to show you, you know, especially in the video game world, almost everything is collectible. And this wasn't even in very good condition. The box was not in perfect condition at all. It had some scratches. It had some tape on it. The styrofoam insert had a hole in it. The manuals were in good condition, but it still went for quite a bit of money. So pretty exciting one to get out the door for the best flip of the week. One of the most crucial things you can do for your reselling business is keep accurate records. With the IRS expected to lower the income threshold for eBay reporting from $20,000 to $5,000 next year, this becomes even more important. So that means if you exceed $5,000 in gross sales this year, eBay will report that as income to the IRS for you. This means you need to be tracking your reselling expenses closely to reduce your taxable income effectively. If you enjoyed these videos and want to support the channel, Flipwise is a tool I built specifically to help resellers like me and you track those expenses automatically. By using Flipwise, not only are you getting a powerful tool to automate your eBay reselling business and simplify tax time, but you're also helping to support the channel and ensure that I can keep making videos like this one. Flipwise automates your record keeping by importing all of your active listings and sold items going back 2 years. If you're behind on record keeping, Flipwise makes it easy to catch up in no time. And while it's focused on eBay, Flipwise also lets you manually record sales from other marketplaces like Mercari, Facebook Marketplace, Poshmark, and even local sales. It also provides unique insights into your reselling business, such as which sourcing locations are performing best, your best and worst sales, and metrics like ROI and net profit margin. You can also track business expenses like shipping supplies, subscription fees, and other tax-deductible expenses. Flipwise is free to use for new sellers with small stores and for everyone else. Check the description below for a promo code to get 20% off your first month. As always, thank you so much for your support.